Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to tonight's Boss Mom Live. This is the first episode of Hong Kong Entrepreneur Boss Mom interview, and I'm the founder of Hong Kong Entrepreneur. My name is Adele Wong, and it's my privilege to have our very special guest for the first episode, Adele Wong. Hi, Adele. Hello, everyone. Hi. We are having a Facebook Live right now. So if you have friends, other mothers who would love to share our chat tonight, that would be awesome. So thank you very much, Adele, for being here. Always love having Adele because my daughter's name is also Adele. So that's, we have the same last name. So that's gonna give us very special meaning to me. A quick introductions about Adele. So Adele is a Hong Kong Entrepreneurs member, and she is also the founder of Memo Media, which is the publisher behind the media called, or the publication called The Loop Hong Kong, which is a lifestyle magazine. So thank you very much, Adele, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. So a bit of a background. So Adele grew up in Canada, as I know, and I just always wonder, because I also grew up in Canada. So there are a lot of us in Hong Kong. But why would you wanted to come to Hong Kong?
Wow. Okay. That's like, ages ago, but basically, short story is I got a job offer, pretty awesome job offer straight out of university after I graduated from the University of Toronto. And I just thought, why not? It would be a good adventure, change of scenery, and I'll be here for a few years, just try out a new city, and then head back home. But here I am 13 years later, still in Hong Kong. So, but that's what brought me to Hong Kong initially, a job, basically.
Okay, but as I know, that job wasn't in publishing. You were studying engineering, if I recall, right? Something more technical.
Yes, correct. So I actually have a degree in industrial/systems engineering. So the job I got initially from Hong Kong was based out of an investment bank. So I was in the financial industry when I first came back. It was, a great company, great team that I was put up in. But I just found that it wasn't really the right industry for me, or a good fit. So I'm no longer an engineer or in finance industry, as you can see. So I'm in a completely different industry altogether now. I'm not sure if you want to hear the whole long story about it.
No, I'm sure there are times when a lot of us kind of pivot mid-year or mid-age. I don't want to call it mid-age crisis, but people want to have a career change. When you get to a certain stage, you suddenly find your way, I think, a lot younger than many of us.
Yeah, I lasted precisely 1 year in the financial industry at an investment bank.
1 year? I spent 30 years in finance.
Yeah, so I guess for me it was more like a quarter life crisis, where I just realized, like really, really early on, that hey, if I'm not in the field that I want to be, this is the chance to kind of like jump out of it and see what I can actually do that would fit my passions and visions a little bit better. So in hindsight, I'm glad I did it that early. And was able to kind of like start from scratch without too much sacrifice, because I was kind of new anyway. But yeah, it's and to be fair, I also, like, when I studied engineering, it was one of my passions as well. So it wasn't like I chose something I didn't want to pursue, but I just realized after I got my job that there was a better fit out there, and it was worth trying something different.
You always have a passion in writing as a kid?
Yes. So I've kept a journal ever since I was 6. So I've always been writing, I guess. And I started a creative writing club when I was in high school. But I guess the practical side of me just never thought that it would be a career path. I just never thought of writing or anything creative as a career path for myself. So I just thought, and I had multiple interests and passions back then anyway. So it was like one of the things I was very interested in, not necessarily the thing that I would have followed as a vocation. So I also like math and numbers. So I guess the more practical side of me took over. But having said that, yes, I've always had a passion, and I love reading since I was really young. Always had a novel in hand back when people still read paperbacks and novels and weren't on their Kindles. So I'm glad I was able to actually make something out of it later on in life, but definitely didn't see it coming. Wasn't what I envisioned for myself when I was young and still in school.
Did your parents give you any pressure or any advice when you told them that you want to change career, or you never told them?
I told them after I made up my mind already. So, I think my parents in general are pretty lax. So they didn't have any strong opinions either way on what industry or what vocation I should have chosen for myself. So I think that made things a little bit easier in terms of like letting them know. But I think it was still a big shock to everyone, because you don't just go from finance to a creative industry within such a short time frame. So I think, it was a shock to myself as well. But I also, the right opportunity, the right doors opened for me at the right time. Like when I decided I wanted to kind of change industries, there were jobs out there kind of waiting, or within my grasp, and I was able to kind of take full advantage of it. So that that helped me out and helped the transition a lot to be a lot easier as well as a result. So definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly getting into the age where when we were young, we're always being told that you should specialize in something, right? Like whether it's accountant or engineer or something with a specialty. But nowadays, people want to be a generalist, like you have to know a bit of everything, so that you have more opportunities and more doors open to you. So I also understand that, of course, when you pivot and change career into publishing, you started off working for a couple of companies, then ultimately you decided to find your own company.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, so I actually started out in the news industry as a reporter, as a staff reporter. So just kind of reporting on breaking news, live news, and had really tough hours because, news happens on a 24-hour basis. So we just kind of have to follow that cycle. I found it really exciting, and it was a really great foot in the door, really great, in the field experience for me. But I guess eventually I transitioned to lifestyle media, which is more on the softer news side. And I found that I really love lifestyle news. So talking to people in the lifestyle industry, or even just kind of like interviewing business leaders and reporting on profiles and things like that, not necessarily breaking news. And I find that I was able to use my creativity a bit better that way. You definitely can be more subjective in your writing and reporting when you're on the softer side of things, and not as factual compared to news. So it's just like really found my home in lifestyle media. So stayed in there for quite a few years. My last major lifestyle publication that I was working for was HK Magazine. So now it's no longer around. It got acquired by SCMP a few years before it closed down. So it was right around that time that I thought, okay, well, there was a little bit of a gap in the digital media scene. So, what's to stop us from kind of starting an English digital media publication? And so the Loop HK, which is a lifestyle website, was born. And then since then, we've kind of branched out into other areas of publishing as well. So under the Mammal Media umbrella, we also publish coffee table books, so physical books on Asian cultures mainly. But recently, we've also published 2 children's books as well.
Yeah. So I also understand because we are a channel for momtrepreneurs. So you started your business before becoming a mother. Now your son is 4 years old, right? 3 years old.
2.5.
Yeah. 2.5 years old. And there's one on the way as well. You expect not that we can see your belly here, but very soon. Very soon. That's why we really want to put you as the first guest because you'll be very busy. Tell us about that transition. So from being, of course, very devoted businesswoman, focusing on your business, then all of a sudden become a mother. Like, how has it been?
Yeah, it is a big change. I think, in general for women and mothers, regardless of whether you're an entrepreneur or you work in a corporate job or 9 to 5. So all of a sudden, it's not just about you anymore. You have a little being that you kind of have to put as priority. So it's a whole different world, and I love being a mother. At the same time, you just have to learn so many different things. You have to learn to be patient, to be a lot more flexible, and to kind of just accept that sometimes your business or your original priorities aren't your number one priorities anymore. So you have to reset your priorities. Having said that, I think women are amazing and we can all multitask and do whatever we feel like. We don't have to be put into identity boxes. Like we can be an entrepreneur as well as a mother. We can be both, and there's no contradiction in that. So, and the same for men as well. They can be fathers, they can be entrepreneurs, they can still work in a corporate job, and nobody will question where their priorities at. Or whether they can be a father and an entrepreneur at the same time. So actually, so just to go on that thread, I think even though I love my identity as a mother, I do see it as a very clear and separate identity to that of entrepreneur. So I do like to kind of put myself in the 2 different boxes, so that it's like I can be my best I don't have to make any unnecessary sacrifices in business, but also be at my best potential as a mother as well. And that's what I strive to be. And I just think that if we can view the situation in that way, then we'll have like true gender equality. And then, then it's like the question becomes, it becomes, can a parent have a business at the same time, rather than can a mother be a mother while being an entrepreneur as well?
Yeah, I think, of course, being in Hong Kong, we have the privilege of having help. So we have great domestic helpers who be able to help moms or father. But then at the same time, we should be very mindful that we should all be playing the parent's role. And it's not something that we should easily just be 2 hands off, and it's not something that you can totally delegate to someone. And so and of course, in general, a lot of people do say in Hong Kong we have fairly good gender equality, but then at the same time we also see a lot of women who need to make that decision call, when they become a mother.
For sure. Yeah, and I completely agree with you. We're very lucky and spoiled in many ways in Hong Kong, because we do have an excellent domestic labor pool at our disposal. Just truly wonderful domestic helpers that can help us out in the home and really let us kind of continue our careers, continue our roles as entrepreneurs. And you can't really say that in a lot of different countries or cities where women and men have to make a sacrifice or a decision on, what they need to focus on, because they can really only focus on one thing at a time, until at least their kids are more grown up, or they don't need as much help in the home. So I think we're quite unique in Hong Kong in that sense, and definitely that's something I'm forever grateful about. I think Hong Kong in general, we do see a lot of women still in the workforce despite having children, and that's absolutely amazing. So I do agree with you on the, in terms of that aspect, gender equality is quite good in Hong Kong. Having said that, I think a lot of the biggest reason behind why we can do that is because we do have a domestic labor pool. Maternity leave and paternity leave are quite bad in Hong Kong compared to other developed countries. So I believe it's only about 20 something or 16 weeks.
14 weeks now.
Right, 14 weeks for maternity leave and 5 days for paternity leave.
Yeah.
So if we didn't have nannies and helpers in our homes helping us out, we wouldn't be able to kind of achieve these ratios and statistics. So I think our city has a lot to improve on in terms of like structural and government policies that will support parents in general, and just let them, if they had to be full-time parents for a bit and leave their careers or businesses for a little bit, that there's room for that. There's a lack of daycare facilities in Hong Kong. So even if you wanted to put your child in a daycare facility, it would be quite impossible. A lot of them offer play groups, but they have to be accompanied by an adult. Right, so I think there's a lot of improvement that our city can benefit from. Having said that, I guess we're in a unique situation.
Yeah, we'll definitely echo that. We're quite spoiled, like what you were saying. If we were in Canada, for example, we would start having kids. Of course, we have the privilege of a pretty prolonged maternity leave or paternity leave that we can share with the husband. But then we also have, of course, quite a lot of daycare facilities, which is quite costly, but there are options available. Yet at the same time, that means we all have to live a life that we are the parents at night as well. And you have to pick up the kids at 5 o'clock. Otherwise, they will start charging you penalty. And that forces everyone to play that role. We don't, if we were in Canada, you probably won't be having that nice dinner every night. You'll be eating off like microwave food or takeout. And that's really part of life. But I also see probably if we live like that, our children will see a different kind of role model as well.
Right.
So of course, we're definitely living in a very different environment compared to other developed countries, like what you were saying. But I'm quite hopeful, thinking that, honestly, as an entrepreneur, I do hope if I have investor who can support me, I can do a shout out and call for investor. We should invest in more daycare.
Yes. More options.
And I have been actually talking to quite a few entrepreneur and more on the investment side about this sort of ideas, and thinking, if it worked in Singapore, it will work in Hong Kong. So they do have that in Singapore, privately run daycare. So that's another topic that we can definitely dive in. But going back into your business,
counting on you to start one, Lena.
So going back to your business of publishing. So like what you were saying, life has changed a lot. There are no longer printed publications. I don't have the figures, but as we all see, there's just less and less paper being printed. and they're all digitalized right now. So I guess you are actually quite front, like you have that insight very early on to go digital early. What's your vision for your business in the next, let's say, 5 years? I don't want to go 10 years because 5 years is already a long time nowadays to talk about.
Yeah, so I just want to continue our mission to kind of publish knowledge and content on Asian-based cultures, kind of open up that world to the English-speaking world, basically. So there's a lot of like our book on Hong Kong food and culture and on Chinese teas. There's a lot of beautiful things about Chinese culture per se that aren't necessarily accessible because a lot of the materials or information is in the Chinese language, obviously. So we just kind of want to make that beautiful culture accessible to the rest of the world. So that's always been our mission on the coffee table and book publishing arm. And even with the children's books, we do like to carry like an educational or inspirational message with our books. So continue to kind of entertain and inform our readers at the same time. While on the Loop HK side, our mission and vision are the same, just to keep our readers updated on the latest lifestyle trends in Hong Kong, the newest restaurants, where to go, where to buy your things, what events are happening, what's happening in our city. So stay on that line and on that vision, and hopefully, in 5 years' time, we'll still be true to our vision that way.
Yeah. So as definitely very it's a very challenging business, publishing.
It is. You have to love it to be in it, and there's a lot of ups and downs. I'm sure there's a lot of ups and downs in every industry, but in publishing and in media, especially as we know, I can't speak on for the Chinese side of things in Hong Kong, but at least in English media and publishing industry in Hong Kong, it's quite small. It was it's quite niche to begin with, but it's just getting smaller. The pool is shrinking. A lot of publications are folding, shutting, or we have to constantly evolve with the times. Having said that, there will always be a market. Like, people do need to get their content and their source of information somewhere. So as long as you find your niche and you're producing content that people want to read and want to keep reading, I think, well, that's the way we're aiming to go. We're aiming to stay relevant for the years to come.
Yeah. I mean, certainly you were saying, of course, if you're saying it's definitely the market seems to be getting smaller, but then you still have the locals who would read English. They just probably don't prefer reading that much, but if they're interesting content, that's a lot of time. That's the challenge I see in Hong Kong, that I would guess like over 50% of local Chinese would be able to read English quite well. It's just a matter of a choice that they wouldn't want to pick up an English magazine. But I do find there are different type of content available in English. I'm perfectly bilingual, and I read Chinese as well. But I do see different kind of content that I can get, and that's why for Hong Kong Momtrepreneur, although of course a lot of time I would write English, just easier, but I do want to share as much as possible both English and Chinese information, because I think they have different angle on the same thing, and sometimes it's interesting to see from different perspectives. Since of course I do find you very interesting, because you have a very diverse knowledge, from more of a science background and then into writing. Who would you think is your greatest mentor growing up? Anyone that gives you inspirations?
Wow. Well, currently, I mean, I wish I had an official mentor. That would make navigating life a lot easier these days. But having without an official mentor, I've had a lot of inspirational figures in my life, and I just want to give a shout out to my husband, my partner, who as cheesy as it sounds, he's been a really solid rock behind my entrepreneurial journey. So he's always believed in my ideas, no matter how crazy they are. And I know that he will always be there to support me, and he's got my back, even if I fail or when I fail. And I think it's really important for an entrepreneur to have someone like that in their lives, just to be like a source of stability. Because as an entrepreneur yourself, you know how volatile things can get. It's up and down. It's not always a smooth ride. It's a roller coaster every day, basically. So yeah, I'm truly very fortunate to have such a supportive partner in my husband. I think that makes doing what I do a lot more easier.
Yeah, that's certainly, I guess he's definitely your biggest fan as well, right?
I hope so.
So, well, coming to the end of our episode, we like to keep it on time. We, in this series of Boss Mom Live, we like to ask the same questions to wrap it up. So we believe that mothers have this superpower, which allow us to achieve a lot more. So, what would be your superpower as a mother?
I can multitask. I can do many things at once because I need to. So even when my toddler is kind of like trying to get me to play with him, I can still answer my emails. I can talk on the phone with a potential client, with our writer's editor, and pretend everything is business as usual, even though I have a screaming toddler in the background. Yeah, I think that's one of the abilities that mothers have to have once they have children. So yeah, I think that's something I definitely value, that I can multitask.
And that's definitely a skill set that you continually to have as a mother of 2 kids very soon.
Yeah, I'm a little bit scared, to be honest, not gonna lie.
Still fresh in your memory with a newborn. So all the best, smooth delivery with the second kid, and thank you very much, Adele, for being with us this evening. And we will continue having this every Wednesday for 10 episodes. So stay tuned to see who will be our next guest on next Wednesday, 9:30. Thank you, Adele.